The time has come for common sense, comprehensive immigration reform. The time is now.
President Obama outlined his priorities for immigration reform today, praising the bipartisan group of senators who released their own plan yesterday, but saying he would send his own bill up for a vote if Congress doesn't act fast enough. White House correspondent David Nakamura is here. Good to see you.
You too.
So the Senate plan caught the White House a little bit off guard, and Obama seems to be maybe playing catch up and trying to affect what happens in the Senate. How do we read these two different action plans?
It's a bit of a tricky task for the White House. They had been working on their own immigration plan for a long time. They have one pretty well spelled out. They've been working on it for years to some extent. But the Senate timing and coming out yesterday with their own bipartisan principles did catch the White House off guard. They didn't think, even as of last week, the Senate would be ready that fast. Obama scheduled this speech today to lay out his plan. He thought he would go first. Because the Senate went first and they said, hey, we have 4 senators on each side of the aisle agreeing to this outline, the White House today didn't want to step on that too much. They want to make sure that momentum continues. At the same time, the president wanted to stake his ground and say, you have to act or we're going to force you to.
So what's the difference between the two plans?
The main thing, I think, is whether the path to citizenship for the 11 million illegal immigrants that are already here is contingent on strengthening the borders. The White House doesn't want to tie one thing to the other. They want them separate things. They don't want to create a status of limbo for all these undocumented immigrants, that we have to sort of make sure the border is done first, then they do it. But the Republicans in Congress do want that. They want to say, hey, we want to make sure the administration is taking care of these border issues that we have before the path to citizenship is given the okay.
If politics is the art of the possible, how possible is an Obama-type plan of granting amnesty to 11 million people while not securing the border? Is that an actual proposal that he thinks could get through the U.S. Congress, or is it kind of a bargaining position?
It's a little of both. I think the president wants that. I think the advocates and supporters, the 70% of Latino and Asian voters who voted and supported the president, want a clear path to citizenship. The White House told us yesterday, senior administration officials said that we're committed to that. But Marco Rubio, who's one of the leading Republicans in the Senate, says, no, we have to have this trigger of enforcement on the borders to make sure that's done before we grant any of these illegal immigrants a clear path to citizenship. So you want to do both, and making sure that happens is something the Republicans want to see. But the White House, I think, is going to fight hard on this.
Yeah, so last thing then, timeline. If the administration has legislation that they aren't releasing because they're waiting for the Senate,
Yep.
The Senate says they won't have the legislation until March.
Yep.
So when might we actually see a vote on this stuff?
I think the Senate is hoping that the principles they've talked about will lead to that written legislative bill that'll put a lot more meat on the bone, specifics, timelines. And then if by the spring they have that, you could see a vote maybe in early summer or midsummer. I think the president has said he'll step in with his own bill if he doesn't see that momentum. So the president put some markers down, and you're going to see a lot more negotiations, in public, but also in the back channels, before the spring, before the summer.
All right, David, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Appreciate it.